I'm interviewing Arnold Rasmusen of Withee. Rasmusen spelled R-A-S-M-U-S-E-N. The date is February 3rd, 1980, and this is Louise Oshevsky.
Born just about 2 miles south of here, right where Zarns live. You know where Zarns live? That's where I was born. And then when I was a year old, then we moved over to the place where old Don Hutman lives. And there we lived for till I was 8 years old. And then we moved to Frenchtown. You know where Frenchtown is. And then, well, that was my home for, well, just about always was my home until 1954, although I was gone. I left home in 1928, and then I would come back that one summer, and then I left again. Then I went to Minnesota that next winter, and then I stayed there for 4 years, and then I come back to Frenchtown again, and then took over, then I come back, and then I brought a wife along back, see, and then we took over the farm, and then we farmed there for 20 years, and then we sold the farm, and then I worked here and there. Well, I worked for Ploutz Brothers then from 54 until the end, just along in 1960. And then I took a job with Clark County as a Forest and Park Administrator. And then I stayed with them until I retired in 1970. And then I worked for the Soil Conservation a year. And also...
What did you do for them?
Well, we helped survey, survey for dams, farm dams, and waterways and things like that. I was a rod man, but then I learned how to take the field notes and put them on a map. So then on bad days, well, then I could sit in and map that stuff, see? So, and then of course like the Forest and Park Administrator, well, take a long time, because I did a lot of things there. I was in charge of 133,000 acres of forest, and then 12 parks. And then were the days when we were building the parks. They aren't like they are now.
Which parks were you involved with?
There was a Sherwood Park, Hatfield Park, Rock Dam, Mead, Snyder's, and then we had this little park out here by Popple River, and we had another one over by Thorpe. They're gone now, I guess.
Were you involved with Bruce Mound?
Bruce Mound, I started Bruce Mound. It was just like back in your back 40 here. Some guys from Mulesville had a little bit of a ski run there. There was a little building there, just like the smallest brooder house you have out here. That was all. Well, I built that up. It's been going pretty good since too, because they put in a couple of T-bars since I left. But we built that all up.
When did that start?
It started about when I started in 1960. And I operated that then, was in charge of that until until I left. We had 5 tows, 5-6 ski runs. We built a metal toboggan slide there. I don't remember how long it was, 600-700 feet long, just like the one up at Perkinstown. Copied that thing just about to a T. And we built a big chalet building, put in snowmaking equipment, drilled wells, and had a snowmaking equipment and big air compressors. The tows, they were run some with diesel motors, some with electric, some with gas motors. You name it, and we did it.
Now, all of these parks started about, but when did they start building the parks in Clark County?
Well, they had a few real small parks a little before that, but not much. They had a little bit of park down in Sherwood. That's in the southeastern part of the county, right by the county line. Jackson County, and then I suppose that's Wood County over there, yeah.
When would they have started to build these? About what year would you say?
Oh, I don't remember. It really wasn't a park. It was just a place they could park a car. They had a little shelter there. Well, you know, it just looked like a little sheep barn, you know, maybe half as big as this room here, you know. That's all there was there when I started. And then the one down in Hatfield there, that did start maybe, I know I was on the county board when that started, maybe a few years before that. But then we developed that, you know. And then we developed all the campgrounds, all those campgrounds. We had one little campground down at Hatfield when I started. And then we had 5 campgrounds then.
Would this have been probably in the 50s when?
Well, in the very late 50s is when it started. But that was only the Hatfield Park is about the only one that it was started before that time. And the rest of them were started after 1960 and developed. Of course, now the only new one they've built since is the one over here by Black River now on 29. They built a new one there. It's a nice little place there now. That's the only one they have built. And then they have discontinued the one over here at by the old German place, you know, over here by
the railroad tracks.
By Popple River there, you know, right north of the county hospital there.
Was it Memorial Park?
Yeah, Duncan Memorial Park they used to call it. But that's discontinued now. And then there was one between Thorpe and Stanley on the old highway, which is Highway X now. That has been discontinued. That was built in the 50s, but it wasn't much there. We developed all that, you know, cleaned it all up and built some buildings there and that. But now they discontinued the whole thing. I don't know what they did. Sell the land back to the owner, I suppose, or give it back to him.
Now you've spent, when you weren't farming, then of course probably when you were on the farm too, you spent quite a bit of your time in the woods. Is this how you kind of became interested in working out in the woods?
Well, I never really worked out for anybody else in the woods. No. I run a coal business, not a wood business. Well,
I to get at your woodworking.
Well, the woodworking.
How you kind of became interested in working with the wood?
Well, I tell you, that happened maybe, 2-3 years before I retired. Maybe, along in the late 60s, you know, because I retired in 1970. So I started with that, maybe along about 67, 68, maybe. First I picked up a saw up in Minneapolis. Was in a house that Doris and Bill bought up there, and the guy wanted to sell it. Well, I give him $35 for a nice 10-inch table saw. It had a 1-horse motor and everything on. So that was the first piece of power equipment that I had. I guess outside maybe I had electric drill or something like that. And then I kind of went from there. I haven't got no big fancy machinery, but I still got that saw, and then I got a bandsaw, and I got a jigsaw, and then drill press, a wood lathe, a metal lathe, a joiner, if you know what that is.
It sounds like you have some equipment.
And then as far as the equipment for making this here, I don't know what you call it. Material? No, it really isn't material. I was going to say stuff, but that don't sound good. Of course, you wouldn't use that word anyhow.
You just did, because you put it on there.
That's okay. That's all right.
No, she didn't put stuff on there.
No, it's on the tape.
Yeah, I know,
That's
but then she's just going to... she'll destroy that after the... I imagine it's one of them that you can erase, right?
You can, but I probably won't, because...
Well, that don't matter.
I'll tell you about it later.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Yeah, that's when I started. But the tools to make these articles, I suppose, maybe that'd be a better word, articles, that I've got, that isn't it isn't just too much. Because I use a wood lathe for quite a bit. You got to have a saw and a joiner to saw out pieces of wood, and you just, well, yeah, you got to have a bandsaw too. So you got to have quite a little equipment even for that. And then, well, I had an old drill press that I had bought years ago, and I give that to Paul, and and then I bought a new one. Why? What? Oh, well, that's what I did with it. I just gave it away, and then. So, what else you want to know?
What kind of articles do you make?
Oh, I make some bowls. I make some vases. What are the vases or vases? And then I make, well, they are candle holders, maybe. They're all made about the same way. A candle holder and a vase and a what would you call it too? Or the other outfits there. Toothpick holders or something like that, you know.
What was the first article that you made?
Of that kind of things, I suppose it would be after I got my lathe and I made maybe one of those little candle holders. I wouldn't be surprised if that wasn't the one would be the first. Because this last, what I'm doing now, I've been doing just about all winter, is more or less called sculpturing. It's called that. And that's what, see, I'm a pupil of a man out in Minnesota. And he is the one that got me started on these birds and animals and things like that. A man by the name of Harold Peterson. And he put out a little book, although I don't advertise that too much. And he's an old Dane like I am, you know. I'm the old Dane. You do that maybe.
Mm-hmm. Your truck sign.
Yeah. And then, well, not just my truck, but I'll just show you that nice sweater that I got.
Oh, it says Old Dane on the back. Nice bright green sweater.
She complimented me on that sweater this morning in church, and then somebody else did the same thing down at the Catholic church. Okay, now where was I?
See.
Yeah, this man, Harold Peterson, was an old Dane, and he was school superintendent for a town about the size of Owen for 30 years out in that town where I worked. And, well, it was kind of Martha's hometown in the old days.
Was it in Tyler?
Yes. And then he retired. And then he went to working at this wood. And then he makes his living at it now. Of course, he's retired. But he started out as a hobby, and then it ended up he's got a couple other guys helping him now to make these things, and they sell them all over 3, 4, 5 states around. You know, got outlets. So I haven't done much of that. I've sold very, very little of that kind of equipment. You know.
Have you made very many of them yet?
Huh?
Have you carved many of them?
Well, like those otters, I probably made 50 of them, but I give them all away. I give them. Did you ever get one?
No.
You don't come to our house often enough, I guess. All the nice ladies around, you got one, but then I'll see to that you get one. And well, now those sparrows, I'm going to have 8 of them. I'd probably take a 4 or something like that and put on the display. I don't want too many.
How do you generally, after you sculpture your animal, how do you finish it then?
Well, that's another process that I learned from this man.
You don't have to give us your trade secrets, but
Pardon?
you don't have to give us your trade secrets, but do you oil it or varnish it? Or?
Well, oil and polish. That's all there is as far as that goes. But it's got to be done right and all that. Then we use Danish oil. They got all kinds of oil, you know. They got tongue oil, and there's linseed oil, and there's all kinds. And that tongue oil costs twice as much or more than the linseed oil, and it's not half as good. I mean the Danish oil. The Danish oil. You can't beat that Danish oil. You can't beat it.
Now the Danish oil is a dark color, isn't it?
No, it's a medium, but it'll darken the wood more, of course. But you take a piece of oak or something, yeah, it darkens it a little, but it's still oak, you know.
So you didn't tell us when you were born yet.
Well, I was born in 1907 on August the 15th, up in that little shanty up there. That's been built onto that house there, was ours. That's been built on twice. And then we moved over in that little building where we lived the first year at Hutman's place. Is that little place looks like a little granary there. That's what it was used for after I grew up. But we lived there before they built the house, and we was 6 kids.
Where did you go to grade school?
Well, in Withee and then in Frenchtown.
And then high school?
No, I didn't go. I didn't go to high school. I went 1 year to high school in Des Moines, Iowa, at Grandview College. I took 1 year there. And I went 4 years in the Withee school and 4 years in Frenchtown school.
You mentioned when you were in Minnesota. What type of work did you do out there?
I was working on the dray line, trucking and local trucking, long distance trucking, and whatnot. Any hard work had to be done, then I had to do it.
Maybe make a little comparison here. Now you have worked on like our county parks for recreation for people now. How do these actually compare with what people did, let's say when you were a young man growing up, for recreation? What did you do for recreation then?
Well, the most of what we did when we were kids until we got big enough to drive a car, and that we played by Black River. We would swim there in the summer from the time the ice left until it froze up again practically. Because I know sometimes we been down by the river and walking around in the river, and then the ground was froze when we walked home with bare feet. That I can remember. And we've been swimming out there when there was ice chunks on the shore yet. You know how the ice chunks are. Well, there we spent every evening and every Sunday. Saturdays, of course, we had to work. From the time we were that high, we worked on Saturday. You probably know how that was in the old days. You had to work. But on Sundays, well, we had to hike to Sunday school. We get back to the river. And then every night, all summer. A little later, one of my brother we had an old bicycle we had made. We couldn't afford to buy any, and then we had an old horse. One guy'd jump on the horse, and the other one the bicycle, and then we'd head for the river. And if neither one were available, we would run. And it was about a mile and a half from the river there,
Let's see, did you always belong to the Presbyterian church here?
Yeah, born, baptized right there. I've been a member of that church all my life, except for a little while when, after we were married, shortly after that, of course, we come back here again, but then we joined the church out in Tyler there. And that's when I did go to church, that's of course where I went, and that was the same, that was the old, Danish Lutheran Synod. So I've always belonged to that church, never belonged to any other.
How have you seen the church, actually change from, in all the years that you've belonged to it?
You see, there's been a big change. There has been a big change because when we were youngsters, and even was confirmed in the Danish language. And shortly after that, then it started to, go a little bit to the English language. Just when it went all English, I don't know. See, when was I confirmed? About 1921. And I'm sure it took 10 years before, more than that, before it all went English. Probably 15, 20 years before it all went English. So that's been a big change. And then I was instrumental in building the new church. Was on the building committee. Served on that all the time we were building it.
Did you have trouble raising money to build a new church?
We didn't really get any money. We tried to raise money ahead of time, and we had a few $1,000s in a building fund. And then the time come when it really got set and they was going to build that church. It seemed like everybody was ready, and they just dug in their pockets. You remember that night that they had a meeting up at the hall, and everybody was going to pledge and pay whatever, what they couldn't then pledge, see how much they would pledge. And I don't think that there was a person in that in the congregation that was able to move that wasn't there at that meeting that night. And they were so enthused about it, and I think we had enough money pledged just in that one night to build that church. Of course, it took a while before it all come in, but we didn't need it all at once either. I suppose maybe it was in 57 when this went on, and then it wasn't until 58, I guess, that we built the church. So that went on maybe for, it happened about a year ahead of time. But everybody, I never seen all the people in this whole congregation here at that Nazareth church is happy. And isn't that right?
But we did have to borrow the money.
Yes, because we had changed the plans a little bit. Things, it never goes. We got some real good bids, and but there was a few things that ended up, and we knew that we'd have to probably borrow $5,000-6,000, I guess we borrowed, and it was only a few years, and that was all paid.
I know that was all paid before we joined in 62.
Yeah. So
congregation really stuck together then, didn't they?
Yes, they did. You see, I don't want to make this. What's that?
We had a leader there too.
Who was the pastor at that time?
Yeah, Reverend Nielsen. He was a promoter and a leader. He wanted to leave before we had built the church. Before we was all set and had the pledges and all that, and I don't know why we hadn't started the plans or anything.
We didn't have the pledges yet either.
Oh, then he was going to leave and go down to Omaha, where he still is. Well, when I heard that, I just dropped everything and went right over to see him, and I wasn't the only one, I guess, I understand. And I told him there's no way that he could leave now. Then everything that we have done so far would go right down the drain, and it would have. I don't think anybody could have gathered those people together like he did. But they wanted him over in Omaha because he just got done building now about a $500 million church over there. So
there are some people that have a knack for.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and I don't think he had an enemy in town. No place, or in the congregation or out. He was a good guy, and a promoter. Promoting good things, Just shut that thing off. Shut it off.
Good enough.